Dun 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 da 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 dun 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 ba da 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 da. Yo, what up? It's Joel's Internet Show, and we are chilling super hard, super hard. I got a lot of internet for you today. So much internet, it's ridiculous. Actually, check out some Japan. I hope everybody made it out alive out there. But I do love property destruction by weather. It's just amazing. It's crazy. It's just like even that looks like a stone wall that's on the ground. I mean, it's goodness. It's just ridiculous. And it could happen. It happened in Nashville with the tornado. It could happen in Japan. It could happen anywhere. There's just, it's the weather. Makes me want to build a bunker or something, It's just so weird how things just get turned into just piles of stuff. It's not even like it doesn't even look like someone knocked it over. It looks like it was like picked up, shaked around, and then set down. Just absolutely crazy. And there's a lot of weather stuff going on over there. Wait, they were talking about the Bitcoin halving. I guess you can't watch it, or there's no audio.
Back in the day, we always used to hassle the waitress or the waiter or the people at the business. Hey, do you take Bitcoin? Hey, have you even heard of Bitcoin? And all that kind of thing. This guy was out there putting his money where his mouth was back when it was 10,000 for 2 pizzas.
Goddamn.
Awesome.
Fuck, you thought it was cool.
Book of getting people to accept it. Nindy will know. We had a powwow, a great organised powwow dinner in London, and there was Craig Wright was opposite Nind, and Tony Bays was opposite me, all the other way around. By the way, and it was at that very event where after a few.
It's weird. It's like I kind of want them to actually talk about Bitcoin.
The Senate gets
Here's
back
the stimulus
to
check
Capitol
update.
Hill. We're going to sit down with Republicans and Democrats, and it'll be our priority that between the 20th and the end of the month, we pass a next piece of legislation. This is excellent news because there has been a lot of bad news around the potential that nothing's going to get passed during this 10-day window. This is wonderful news. Also, shout out to Brandon, who is in my real estate investing course, who stood by the CNBC interview and videotaped it for me because I actually walked out of a live stream that I was doing. I was doing a verbal live stream, a mentee chat, and I came in here and I missed half of the interview. But Brandon stood by his TV and sent it to me. Thank you for that. Now, Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin did go on to say that the next rounds of PPP would be more targeted, more towards smaller businesses. I think that might somewhat be a little bit of a slam that some very kind of large and profitable businesses have received PPP money, which in all fairness, I mean, large and profitable businesses do have a lot of employees, but it doesn't look good when really wealthy people are getting bailouts, right? Then Steve Mnuchin went on to talk about the $600 boost, the $600 plus up, as Larry Kudlow has talked about, for unemployment pay. Steve Mnuchin says, we knew there was a problem, that some were earning more than they did when they were at work. That is, people were earning more money or basically receiving unemployment than they were at work. And he calls this a technical error. He says, quote, we're going to fix that. We're going to make sure that people are incented to go back to work.
What?
We'll fix that, and we'll figure out an extension that works for those businesses and those who are still unemployed. Now, then he was directly asked, will this technical fix be a cap on benefits at 100% of whatever the worker was making before? He responded and said, you can assume that it'll be no more than 100%. But even at 100%, we want people to go back to work. This is for people. The unemployment boost is for people who can't go back to work. There are many industries who can't go back to work, presumably restaurants, retail, travel. So let's take a quick pause there for a moment. So we got good indications on timing. We now know that there's a high push to get this bill done between the 20th and 31st. That's very, very good. It's better than the news we had a few days ago. We also just heard that they're trying to do a, quote, technical fix to the $600 plus up. This probably means they're going to either tune it down to like $400 to $450, or they'll just make it scale with your income, which I know there are some people saying, oh, well, but that's more complicated. Sure, that's more complicated, but that is exactly what the unemployment system does. It pays you based on what your income was, and it scales based on how much income you made. So it's kind of like, yeah, it's more complicated, but the system already exists. So we'll see what comes of this, but all in all, this is good. Now, we do have more news as well. At the same time as Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin was giving an interview, Kevin McCarthy gave a press conference. He is the third-ranking member in the Senate. He is a Republican. He started off by saying we are on the road to rebuilding, and he was directly asked about the $600 plus up. And he alluded to this because he did a really good job of sort of dodging the question, but he started kind of talking about, hey, you know, maybe we should adjust the $600 to the cost of living in each state, which basically means states like Ohio might get about $500 and states like California and New York might get about $700. I know this because I actually published this sort of information in videos about 2 weeks ago. Now, I'm not expecting you to go through my channel and go look for that. I'll gladly bring it up again in the future, but this is a quick synopsis. So that was a really interesting thing to hear that that's also being discussed. Kevin McCarthy went on to say that the big priority now is obviously getting kids back to school. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin also went on to talk and comment about the president's recently threatened new tariffs, sanctions, right? Taxes on other countries, specifically on China, countries in Europe, and Canada, citing that we do not have a level playing field. And pretty much immediately after that, stocks tanked. So stocks are quite in the red at the moment, so this might create a buying opportunity. By the way, stay tuned for a video later today. I'm going to create sort of a stock portfolio, and I want to share that with you, something that I think will be accessible for everybody and easy to use and easy to understand for everybody. It'll be a mix of between maybe 30 to 50 stocks. So stay tuned for that later today. Generally, YouTube does not pitch my sort of stock.
I mean, it's really awesome that they brought us some more information about the stimulus, because everybody was wondering, it's like, ooh, are we going to get another check? How cool would that be, you know? So let's see what happens. But also knowing that unemployment benefits are going to go down because people are, it's like, well, maybe they should have been paid more, but also inflation. I mean, you got to look at the bigger picture, and it's not looking good either way. No matter what side you're on or what, you know, what your ideals are, it's like the economic bigger picture of how our economy works. Even, you know, for poor people or rich people, it doesn't really work very well, in my opinion. Let's check out Trump's tax return situation.
Exactly do these two different decisions mean for Donald Trump? We've been hearing a lot about his tax returns. Are these decisions a win or a defeat for the president?
Well, it's pretty much a mixed bag for the President of the United States. It's a little bit of a win, but also a little bit of a defeat, especially symbolically. Let's start with the first case, the New York criminal case with the Manhattan DA who had subpoenaed those financial records, tax returns for his criminal investigation. In that case, the court, which ruled 7-2, but was unanimous in saying that Donald Trump, the President of the United States, did not enjoy total immunity when it comes to these cases. And that is a huge symbolic defeat for Donald Trump, because the argument of the Trump team was that as president, he enjoyed full immunity from these subpoenas. Now, in the other case, it's a little bit more complicated. Basically, what the court said, again, 7-2, in both cases, the appointees at the Supreme Court of Donald Trump ruled with the majority opinion. So in that case, in the congressional case, where several House committees were asking the Donald Trump administration, the Trump administration, to give those financial returns in a congressional investigation, this time the court said that while it is possible in some cases that House committees can subpoena the President of the United States, there has to be a very careful scrutiny of the burdens that it puts on and the scope of these investigations before those subpoenas can be done and can be replied to by the White House. And they say that in this case, that did not happen. Donald Trump, however, was not happy at all. Really big reaction on Twitter, several tweets, a thread. He basically called this a political prosecution.
Now, tax returns have been an ongoing issue throughout his time in office. What does this mean for the November election?
That doesn't even look real.
Well, this means that Donald Trump has actually won on one thing, which is timing, because this was really the idea behind those court proceedings, at least on Donald Trump's team side, was to run the clock. And what the Supreme Court has decided in both cases is to send the matter back to lower courts. And that means we're going to have more proceedings in courts. So yes, there might be at some point the Manhattan DA will actually get to subpoena those financial records.
On the Trump tax returns. It's like first everybody's like, they have to do the tax returns, and then everybody's like, but it's going to be more court. It's like, never mind. I don't know. It's like all these headlines all morning were like, Trump's going to have to give up his tax returns. And then, like, immediately all the headlines were like, Trump's not going to have to give up his tax returns. It's like opposites can both be true at the same time in today's media. It's crazy.
In Hubei province of China, close to 29,000 citizens were evacuated as a nearby reservoir dam is showing signs of deformation and also is beginning to slide. The incident is taking place amid continuing heavy rains in China, going over 30 days so far. Near the middle reaches of the Yangtze River, which has been overflowing as well, the water level at the Baiyang Reservoir in Huanggang city of Hubei rose to dangerous levels, and the dam began to slide and to show signs of deformation, again, putting an area of over 620 square miles at risk. The reservoir was built back in 1958, spans several villages, and can hold around 78 million cubic feet of water. And other reservoirs may also be at risk in China. By July 5th, around 1,094 reservoirs just in Hubei had exceeded their limits, and more than 11 counties and cities, including Wuhan, the epicenter of the CCP virus, the new coronavirus, issued a red code flood warning. Meanwhile, in Yeyang city of Hunan province, rainfall has reached its highest on record since 1952, and the city issued its highest level flood warning. And in East China, the largest reservoir in the region, the Xinanjiang Reservoir of Qingdao Lake in Hangzhou City, opened all 9 of its floodgates to discharge water, and the water discharge reached over 14.7 thousand square feet per second. The waters from that discharge will go to the middle and lower parts of the Qingtang River, increasing the severity of existing floods in that region. And in response to this, the highest level emergency warning was issued in Zhejiang province. In Jiangxi province, an estimated 400,000 people are being affected by floods in the middle and lower reaches of the Yangtze River, and also their water levels of lakes is also surging. An estimated 25.9 thousand hectares of crops have also been destroyed in that region, with an estimated cost in damages exceeded 260 million yuan, or about $37 million. And meanwhile, in Yunnan province, a 4.2 magnitude earthquake struck Dongchuan district of Kunming. Now, taken together, what are we seeing here? We're seeing natural disasters taking place pretty much all around China right now. 26 different provinces and cities facing floods. And in addition to this, we have earthquakes, we have hailstorms, we have tornadoes. And in addition to this, too, in Inner Mongolia, the Chinese Communist Party has now closed tourist locations after cases were found of the bubonic plague, the Black Death. And meanwhile, in Hong Kong, the authorities there have banned a popular protest song from being sung in schools. And this is again as the Chinese Communist Party has passed these national security laws effectively ending Hong Kong's autonomy. We see free speech ending. We see popular protest ending. We see calls for democracy ending. And now children in schools are beginning to face different forms of pressure from this as well. And meanwhile, the Chinese Communist Party has also converted a Hong Kong hotel into the new National Security Office. And so now the CCP agents who will be enforcing these new national security laws have their own office in Hong Kong, where they can begin carrying out the different forms of prosecutions under these new laws. And as we mentioned on an earlier announcement, the WHO has now confirmed that its experts will begin traveling to China to try to confirm the origins of the CCP virus, this new coronavirus. And also in context of this, the United States just pulled out of the WHO altogether. And this was in context of the United States determining through a study that the WHO is not able to demonstrate proper separation from the Chinese Communist Party. Now, the Chinese Communist Party, meanwhile, was facing pressure from all these different countries, Australia, the United States, even the European Union, calls for investigations into the origin of the virus. They said they would not allow any foreign experts into China to investigate, but they said they would allow the WHO. Now, given the WHO having covered for the Chinese Communist Party during the whole extent of this virus outbreak, and given the U.S. assessment that the WHO has not demonstrated independence from the Chinese Communist Party, why would the Chinese Communist Party select the WHO as being the only external group allowed to go in China to investigate the origins of the virus? And why is the WHO the one now chosen to do this? And also in a bit of U.S. news, Kanye West has confirmed that he will run for president, and he's asking Biden and Trump to drop out of the race. Now, Democrats have particularly been happy Kanye joining the race because they believe that he's also a Trump fan, and they believe that he will split the black vote. And so there are concerns about that among Democrats who've been criticizing Kanye based on that. And also, given that Kanye has come out supporting Trump in the past, there are also some conservatives who are worried that he will break the Trump voting base. Now, whether any of these are true, we'll have to see. But regardless of this, Kanye has confirmed that he'll be running for president of the United States. Now, for the first story for today, the Chinese Communist Party is expanding its authoritarian reach through Hong Kong. In Hong Kong, the local government is refusing to guarantee press freedom under the new national security laws. Also, the United Kingdom is still considering offering a path to citizenship for some Hong Kongers looking to leave the country, and the Chinese Communist Party is warning them. It is responding by saying that they are interfering in their own affairs. Also, the laws grant Hong Kong police broad powers, including the ability to conduct raids without warrants, to censor even Western companies such as Facebook, which they claim will allow them to force the company to even remove content. And so what are we seeing here? Again, different countries are saying that this new national security law effectively ends Hong Kong's autonomy. And here we see an example of this already happening. And again, part of the agreement with the UK handed over Hong Kong to the Chinese Communist Party was that they were supposed to have a one country, two system policy until 2047. This was an agreement that was supposed to last 50 years. And this was under the popular belief at that time among many countries around the world that by allowing the Chinese Communist Party to engage in some of the global free market, that they would become more free, not less free. And what have we seen? We've seen the opposite. The Chinese Communist Party has used its access to different international institutions to implement its own system, to force its own totalitarian nature onto other countries. And now we're seeing it going back on even its agreement with Hong Kong. And Hong Kong, which was really a democratic country in many regards, saw its freedom stripped from it overnight. Imagine being in their shoes, where you're living in a free country, and then one day you wake up and your freedoms have disappeared. For Hong Kongers, this is now the reality. They're being told that police can come and raid their homes without needing warrants. They're being told that even social media platforms like Facebook, foreign companies, can be forced to remove content if they want to continue operating there. They're being told that, say, posting different opinions online could get them thrown in prison, even retroactively. And we're looking at some other examples of this on the broader picture, for example, of censorship in Hong Kong. And Hong Kong activists, meanwhile, are continuing the protests. They are not giving up and standing up against the CCP. But since pro-democracy slogans can now get them listed as terrorist, many of them are now protesting while holding blank signs. And again, this is another example, this label of terrorism, another example of how the Chinese Communist Party uses slogans as political weapons. The term terrorist, while it has bad connotations in the West, is being used by the Chinese Communist Party, is taking advantage of the emotional attachment to that word, and it is using it as a club to persecute its own people. And also reports say that some Hong Kongers have begun removing their internet history. They're trying to scrub their history, since the new laws in Hong Kong allow the CCP to prosecute crimes committed even retroactively. And so, for example, if 2 years ago they had wrote a post on Facebook, for example, saying they support democracy in Hong Kong, or saying that they support, say, these different protesters out on the street, and there were 2 million people protesting on the street in Hong Kong, which is a large portion of their population. Now, if they had posted that, they risk being labeled as terrorists, they risk life in prison. And this raises the question as well for many in Hong Kong on how much data the Chinese Communist Party has already collected on them. Going back to 2014, for example, there were reports that the Chinese Communist Party had military spies operating monitoring facilities from a mountain base overlooking Hong Kong. There were photographs of it, there were reports on it. It was not technically a secret, but one of the big questions that was asked then and still should be asked now was how much data did the Chinese Communist Party collect on Hong Kongers? And what does it mean for the many people in Hong Kong?
Imagine. How's the old Bitcoin doing? We're not getting any info. What's it at? 9,229. Oh, it's a day, so 1,500 to 1,500. It went up a little bit. Yeah, that's pretty cool. He's doing a projection. Yeah, he does these lines and they have some sort of algorithm embedded, and I think he's just going to turn them diagonal or something to kind of fit it into the pattern and then make a prediction. And let's go freeze. Alright, we'll think about that again later. I like this one because it's live scenes from various places on Earth. This is for Germany. Let's see what I want to learn more about this.
Well, if we're going to talk about keeping our eyes on the road, that relates right back to BTC, whose road is consolidation into a range, 9K to 10K, of which the price has been bouncing around in for over 2 months now, from bearish to bullish to bullish to bearish. Although since our last time testing 10K resistance, it has been a series of lower highs, 9,875 on June 10th, 9,678 June 20th, and if Monday was our next high, it hit about 9,350. Let's hope that wasn't the next high and a doobie is yours. Although if we're speaking about consolidation into ranges, there's a chart which many have forgotten about, and this consolidation range goes back even further to last year. It's the Bitcoin dominance chart. As we can see, since June of last year, BTC has been in the 60% to 70% dominance range, bouncing up and down within it. Although since the 70% peak in September of 2019, the trend has been down. Lower highs were a feature, but then the panic came in March, which pumped the dominance of Bitcoin as people were getting scared of holding their shat coins. But since the peak after in May, the downtrend has once again started. Now here's an interesting chart, Ethereum dominance and other altcoins, aka all the other altcoins out of the top 10, and that's a whole lot of them. And since Bitcoin September 2019 dominance peak of 70%, we can see the two, they have been in the uptrend, Ethereum and other altcoins, and highly correlated, not following each other exactly, but following each other nonetheless. And why exactly is this? DeFi, my friends, DeFi, the coins that have been surging in the others category. Those coins out of the top 100, they're all DeFi related, and a large majority of them are built on Ethereum. And which coin out of the others category that is DeFi related controls the highest percentage of the over $34 billion total market cap? If you added up all their caps, it's Chainlink, which now has a market cap of $2.1 billion, which means it controls over 6.1% of the others category. Which if you pull out its price chart, you understand why. Since Bitcoin's dominance peak in September 2019, Chainlink has surged from $1.58 to $5.60 as of yesterday, a 3.5x. And if you understand Link, you understand its value in DeFi and beyond to the enterprise level of data transfer and ownership. For example, China's BSN, or the Blockchain Service Network, which I have covered more than a few times. What it is, the connections to the baseline protocol, Ethereum, Chainlink, and more. Those videos are in the description if you want a deeper understanding. But recently we found out the BSN was actually going live. The block covered it. Blockchain platform backed by conglomerates, government-sponsored think tank to go live next week. And in the article it says, the association said the BSN has already created almost 100 public city nodes in China with support from 3 telecom carriers, China Mobile, China Telecom, and China Unicom. 100 nodes were ready back in April. I wonder what they were looking to expand to in terms of node growth for 2020. Well, this Forbes article tells us, it's titled, "These Chinese blockchain platforms are launching soon. Here's why." And it says the speed that the BSN is expanding is massive, and the goal is to have 200 server nodes across China by the end of 2020. So 200 nodes planned end of year. I wonder where they are today from the April 28th go live with 100 nodes. Well, Crypto Slate covered it yesterday. China Chainlink Adoptee National Blockchain Project goes live, 135 public nodes running. Wait, I thought it went live in April. Well, this is just a province in China they are covering. From the article, the Zhejiang district in China has laid the foundation for the Blockchain Service Network, the country's ambitious nationwide blockchain project, as per local reports this week. For starters, 135 public nodes are reportedly active in the province, affirming China's broader 5-year plan that heavily features blockchain technology. So there is a mysterious company who is leading this project, and CoinDesk covered it in late April. Meet Reddate, the little-known tech firm behind China's big blockchain vision. Now, Reddate is led by CEO Yifan He, who has actually been interviewed in a webcast just last month by TechNode, and they provided a breakdown of what was said by Yifan. The BSN's Interchain Communication Service Hub will use IrisNet's Inter-Realm Industry Trust Alliance, IRITA. IRITA is an open-source enterprise consortium blockchain development framework in the Cosmos ecosystem. It helps developers build decentralized applications that can communicate securely through a unified service interface. Yeah, IrisNet is going to be its own Cosmos hub, and IrisNet is a coin, which is trading, and they covered their relationship with Cosmos in a Medium post FAQ. They said this in their relation to Cosmos. While the Iris network focuses on providing an innovative solution for distributed business application, it is part of the Cosmos ecosystem. The proposed IrisNet hub is going to be the first regional hub connecting to Cosmos main hub to add more reliability to the network. So that's some good stuff that went under the radar, but let's get back to what Yifan said in the webcast. He also said this: Chainlink's Oracle network, a constellation of data feeds for blockchain applications, will be integrated directly to the BSN using IRITA. So this level of integration is great for both projects. As we know, China is going gung-ho on blockchain, but it goes even deeper with the level of integration with Chainlink, because they're on both sides of big enterprise chains, East and West, BSN, Fisco, BCOS, and then Baseline and Ethereum. As I covered this before, 2 of the original creators of Hyperledger Fabric, Frank Liu is working on the East with BSN and Fisco, while John Wolper is working on the West with Baseline and Ethereum. But this episode isn't only about those stinky linkies. We got a whole lot to cover, including this sponsored segment from our friends at the Ferrum Network, who have built something to support high-speed interoperability between chains, creating DeFi features not allowed with your typical standalone blockchain. And like always, the details of our agreement can be found in the description. So first, we have to understand what Ferrum has done. Instead of them building their own standalone network and blockchain infrastructure, they leveraged what was already there with the blockchains, and then connected them to a high-speed transactional layer that allows the peer-to-peer exchange of any digital asset, whether it be Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, Zcash, EOS, and more. So how does this work? Well, when you send coins to Ferrum from, say, the Ethereum network, a unique address for you called the lock address is created. No one in the world ever sees the private key for the lock address. Instead, the private key is created in distributed nodes within and around the Ferrum network. When Ether arrives at your locked address, the same amount of Ether is generated in the Ferrum network. You can then spend, exchange, and use that Ether or other assets in the Ferrum network, enjoying its high speeds and the low fees. And holders of the Ether in Ferrum's network can at any time destroy their proxy Ether and get an identical amount of Ether in the main Ethereum blockchain. A user only has to request that the network unlock the same amount from the originally locked account and present the proof of destroyed Ferrum Ether. Now, I know this sounds like a lot, but it's really simple, and a great way to show you is to show you through one of their main vertically integrated products, the Unifier mobile wallet, which does all the locking mentioned above behind the scenes, while you just see simple clicks. And of course, if you like what you see, a link for download is in the description for both iOS and Android. So once you have downloaded and you are in, you have a basic sign-up process, then security backups for your seed phrase, which I like the Google Drive integration because it's fast and quick to back up. Once all the security is taken care of, we can see there we have Ethereum and Ferrum for tokens to store, but there is a place to enable and disable coins. Going into this, you can see all the tokens Unifier and Ferrum allows as of now, because there are a ton more coming soon. But there is something besides asset storage and transfers we need to look at within this wallet, which I think the viewers of the tube just might like: a link and pool drop technology, which can be found if you go into more settings, advanced, and pool drop. Then clicking into FRM, the token of their network, we are taken to the create pool drop section. You just enter the amount of tokens, number of link participants, the amount of FRM per link participant, and you can include a message and a link for them to visit after the claim. Clicking create link, it does just that, which you can send to a recipient. And here's how it looks on the recipient side. You just get a link from someone, they open it, and it takes them to a claim page where they can download the Unifier wallet to store if they don't have one. Since we have one, clicking continue in Unifier, it automatically opens up the transaction in the wallet app, which you can say thanks in the notes section, and the sending party receives just that. Click accept and you're good to go. And a bonus, after this video, the Ferrum team will be in the Chico Crypto Telegram chat, pool dropping FRM tokens. So join my chat, the link is below. And guess what? With the next update, that pool drop tech is coming for all assets supported by the wallet, including that stinky link, which for holding FRM in the wallet, the team is link dropping tokens weekly, including link, quant, veracity, and more. So why is this tech important? Well, for airdropping cryptos to multiple people. Before, it has been a total pain in the arse. You have to do hundreds, if not thousands of single transactions. And this tech they have, it groups everything into one transaction, saving gas fees, for example, on Ethereum, and lessening the load on its network. And it's so simple, anyone can understand how to get a link drop if they know how to navigate a mobile phone. Now, Unifier is just the beginning of Ferrum's growth into DeFi on the Ethereum side and beyond, but they have actually already been growing, where Crapdano says they are going to revolutionize DeFi in Africa, but they have a product being used. First Kuti, which is their digital asset and fiat gateway for the region. That is built and has been built. But there's more, as Ferrum already has staking live, and in the future they have the launch of the Infinity Cross-Chain DEX, and finally the launch of Sub-Zero, the first digital asset cold storage application. So don't forget about what's coming, and of course don't forget to get a Unifier wallet and join the Chico chat for those coming pool drops. Now my next topic is about a project who seems to always go under the radar. That is iExec RLC, which has been a favorite of mine for some time. Even with it not in the news and headlines, since March it has been a top performer, going from 20 cents to 80 cents as of yesterday. I wonder what could be going on. Well, just this week they co-released a paper written in collaboration with Intel and the IEEE, or the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, titled Off-Chain Trusted Computing, which they dive into what we know of the EA Off-Chain Trusted Compute specification, but they give something we didn't know, a specific example. Since the release of the EA Off-Chain Trusted Computing specification, several trusted worker pools have been created for applications in smart factories, smart cities, AI model sharing, medical data sharing, and 3D rendering data protection. At the Mobile World Congress 2019, Intel and iExec, two main contributors to the specification, demonstrated a decentralized service that helps a fleet of rescue robots to find the safe paths to search for and reach two lost robots. A marketplace of smart contracts was created to aid trusted discovery and transaction settlement. The smart contracts enabled mutual authentication among the robots and ensured the reach of a decentralized consensus on the result of the transactions. To ensure scalability and data privacy, the smart contracts offloaded the AI computing to an Intel SGX enclave. Upon the completion of the rescue task, the marketplace carried out a payment for the users owning lost robots to those within the rescue robots for the services they offered. A lot to unpack, I know, but they just described iExec to a T, my friends. It said several trusted worker pools that have been created for some.
South Carolina, a busy hospital calling in the National Guard after dozens of staff were infected by the virus.
We're pretty well maxed out on ICU capacity. 96% that could happen quickly.
And in Texas, employees racing to evacuate this Fort Worth nursing home after dozens of residents tested positive for COVID-19. From California to Florida, America's Sun Belt is now the global hotspot.
Just in 28 days, less than a month, we have as many cases that we've added as we did in the first 99 days.
Arizona alone now reporting more cases than any other country in the world.
It is heartbreaking right now. I think we reported 117 deaths today. As you've mentioned, the healthcare system is in crisis levels of support right now.
In Tulsa, health officials are now suggesting President Trump's rally last month is partially to blame for a recent spike in cases.
The past 2 days, we've had almost 500 cases, and we know we had several large events a little over 2 weeks ago, which is about right. So I guess we just connect the dots.
It comes as school systems across the country are facing new pressure from the president, who's threatening to cut federal funding to schools that don't reopen in the fall.
You're not going to bully New Yorkers. That's not going to happen. School reopenings are a state decision. Period.
Trump is also butting heads with the CDC, saying he disagrees with their guidelines for restarting the school year, which include masks, 6 feet of spacing between desks, open windows, and avoiding the cafeteria and playground equipment if possible.
I want to make it very clear that what is not the intent of CDC's guidelines is to be used as a rationale to keep schools closed.
New guidelines are now expected to roll out next week.
The White House is facing a new lawsuit from multiple universities after the administration announced international students will have to leave the country if they do not attend in-person classes in the fall.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel.
Anyway, as you can see, the smartphone is big, 6.9 inches to be exact, and also rectangular in nature, which I really like. The model number of the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra is SMN986Q, which you can clearly see here, along with One UI 2.5 and Android 10. Yesterday, we discussed how Samsung has moved the S Pen slot as well as the speaker grill on the Note 20 Ultra to the left of the charging port, which again is confirmed here in a side-by-side comparison against the Galaxy Note 10 Plus. Also interestingly, Samsung hasn't made any changes to the physical appearance of the S Pen as well as its dimensions. Jimmy swapped the S Pens from the Note 20 Ultra and Note 10 Plus, and they fit perfectly inside. But that doesn't mean there won't be new features to the S Pen this year. Jimmy says Samsung has added a lot of new features. He revealed one of the new features, which is the S Pen can now act as a pointer. If I'm not mistaken, this feature is already present in current S Pen on the Galaxy Note 10 Plus. But the difference is now you can set different colors for the pointer along with different sizes, which also can show trails, kind of like a mouse on the computer, which is a good productive tool. Another confirmed feature of the S Pen is its speed. It's going to be a fastest stylus on the planet with a latency of 9 milliseconds, similar to the Apple Pencil. The top and bottom frames are flat, and the color of the frames matches the color of the smartphone, black in this case. According to my sources, the frame will be harder than the aluminum on the Galaxy Note 10 Plus, but can't really confirm if it's a stainless steel or a harder aluminum like on the S20 Ultra. The camera bump, by the way, is huge, way bigger than the Note 10 Plus, and even bigger than the already big Galaxy.
I'm starting to think that they need to make like a or something, or like a, it's like the camera is now taking up more room than the phone. It's just like, but you want a dope lens on your camera, but I don't know. It's kind of a weird weird phone time where we'll see what happens next. 'Cause, I mean, they keep getting faster and faster. We never thought that phones and computers would just keep getting faster. We were like, well, there's a heat problem. You can only fit so much heat into a small area, and they just keep making. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Galaxy S20 Ultra, but it is rectangular and there's no cheap Space 100x zoom branding, which makes it look better than the S20 Ultra. That doesn't mean I like it though. It still is an abomination at the back, just like every other phone this year. However, Samsung has fixed all the camera issues they had with the S20 Ultra, which also includes the autofocusing issue with an assist from a new laser autofocus system. Interestingly, the CAD leak showed that the Note 20 Ultra is going to be a thin device at 7.6mm, but I really can't say that's going to be true because from the looks of it, it looks thicker than the Galaxy Note 10 Plus, or maybe about the same size. I guess that's due to the sharp edges of the Note 20 Ultra, but it certainly looks thicker to me. Let me know in the comments if you also feel the same.
Pretty cool. I think they're gonna go live at the White House soon. I kind of like to tune in and see what kind of BS.
Like what we would think Indian is, though we do have the multiple arms here, but clearly Caucasian head there. And these guys have got, it's like a half cross. It's like well, they've got 3 heads and 4 arms. But yeah, they've got these handles on their heads.
Following his tragic death, thousands of our fellow citizens sought to exercise their First Amendment rights to free speech and peaceful assembly. While most of these protests were law-abiding, it is clear that some individuals exploited a situation to sow chaos and commit acts of violence, destruction, and theft. That is why, at the height of the civil unrest, more than 43,000 National Guard personnel were called upon by governors across the country to uphold the rule of law, safeguard life and property, and protect the rights of Americans, all Americans, to protest safely and peacefully. As a former soldier and member of the National Guard, I am a firm believer.
Using social media has found out who the soldier was. Sky's Katie Spencer has this report.
Good luck and happiness. And then here it says the start to a new life.
10 words quickly written onto the only bit of paper an American soldier could find, this German banknote. Lily Ebert was 16 in April 1945 when she and her sisters were liberated from a death march. They'd survived Auschwitz, but lost everything.
We are not a piece of paper. We have nothing. You cannot know that, and you cannot explain, especially today. It's nothing. You had the rug what you had on your body, and that was it.
In just over 4.5 years,
been
Nazi Germany
revealed.
systematically murdered
Initial
nearly
reports
1
claimed
million
that US spy chiefs were aiming to expand the secretive base with some 1,500 extra agents. The full details of who works there are kept secret, but CIA agents are among those stationed at the base. However, the move was challenged in the House of Commons in a debate prompted by the local MP, former Cabinet Minister Andrew Leadsom, over fears that it could lead to more accidents, like the incident that killed a British teenager last year. The fatal crash involved 19-year-old Harry Dunn and a former intelligence agent, Anne Sekulas, who drove into Harry's motorcycle while driving on the wrong side of the road outside the airbase in August 2019. Sekulas later claimed diplomatic immunity and fled to the US. In an open letter, the teenager's family claimed the redevelopment news has upset them and shows how little the US government thinks of Harry's life. However, the British government says the development plans will not lead to an increase in agents.
I want to be clear from the start that there are no plans to increase the number of personnel on site at RAF Croughton.
A campaigner against US surveillance activity at Airbase Menwith Hill in Yorkshire, Martin Schweiger, thinks that allowing such practices doesn't do much for Britain's reputation.
It would be nice to think the special relationship was about building bridges, building friendships.
All right. I think that's it for right now. I'll holler at y'all later tonight or possibly tomorrow, perhaps.
6 months interruption in treatment services would lead to an additional 500,000 deaths from AIDS in this year alone. That would double the number of deaths in sub-Saharan Africa and actually set us back to 2008 response levels. So we'd lose a decade of progress in just 1 year.
Shannon, are people with HIV more likely to suffer from a severe COVID-19 infection?
You know, we're learning as we go on that. There is some new data out of South Africa, which is one of the